Today we're speaking with Mr. Abdul Kareem Hassan. Mr. Hassan is a New York lawyer who is a candidate for the presidency of the United States. Mr. Hassan, you're relatively new to the political scene. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I was born in the country of Ghana in 1974. I immigrated to the United States many, many years back, and I'm now a naturalized American citizen.
Tell me a bit about your educational background.
In college, I majored with honors in economics, sociology, and political science. And after college, I went on to law school where I graduated with a Juris Doctor, and I'm now an attorney.
Tell me a bit about your profession.
Well, as I said, I'm an attorney, and in New York City here, I run a law firm which focuses on employment law and litigation, as well as civil rights law and litigation. And we represent people from all different races, backgrounds, who believe that their rights under the civil rights and employment laws have been violated. And basically, we litigate those cases through the state and federal courts here. And we've had a pretty good track record of doing well for our clients.
There are a lot of people running for president. Why are you running for president?
Well, I'm running because I believe that I can do for America what I do for the overwhelming majority of my clients, solve the difficult problems facing this country. The major issue that really has gotten me going is the issue with the national debt. When I came to this country many, many years back, the national debt was $3 trillion. Today it is over $15 trillion and getting worse and worse and worse. But you know, the problem with the debt alone is not the main reason I'm running. It's the fact that the politicians keep repeating the same failed ideas and strategies, which have never solved the problem and which have only made it worse. So while the problem of the debt is bad, I think the absence of a plan to solve the debt is even worse. And that, to me, has triggered me to run. And I think it should spur other Americans who are concerned about the direction of this country to get up and do something before it's too late.
You mentioned the absence of a solution. What's your solution for solving the debt problem?
My solution is very simple. It's a one-page plan. It's called the Hassan Economic and Leadership Plan, HELP, or HELP, which is what I think our economy and country needs at this moment. My plan has four parts. The first part, I will have the federal government fund the annual budget deficits by borrowing money from the Federal Reserve Bank. Currently, we fund the deficits by selling debt in the form of treasury bonds and so on, and by selling debt to Wall Street and foreign countries like China. And then we pay interest to the foreign countries and to Wall Street. Under my plan, the Federal Reserve will lend us the money to pay for the budget deficits. And whatever interest we pay on the borrowed money, most of that will come back to us because we own the Federal Reserve. And the way the Federal Reserve works, the overwhelming majority of the profits made by the Federal Reserve is transferred to the United States government. So we will end up getting back all that money. The second part of the plan would see us as the federal government borrowing money from the Federal Reserve to purchase or to repurchase the outstanding debt. That's all the accumulation of debt currently held by other countries like China, Wall Street investment funds, and so on. The third part of the plan, we will try to retire the debt after we buy it back over a period of 10 to 20 years based on economic conditions. Currently, we have very tough economic conditions. So I believe we can retire trillions of dollars in debt without any significant change or any change whatsoever in inflation. You know, the Federal Reserve has pumped 10 to 15 trillion dollars into the economy in the last 3 years with very little change in inflation. In fact, most people believe inflation is going down. So the main effect of my plan would be to transfer the interest payments. Instead of paying the interest to countries like China and to Wall Street investment funds, we will pay the interest on the debt to the Federal Reserve, which under my plan would buy back all the debt. And because we own the Federal Reserve and because most of its profits come back to us, almost all of the interest, which is hundreds of billions of dollars each year, would come back to us. It's no different than a homeowner refinancing their home. If they're paying 7% interest rate and they refinance at 4%, that savings is actual savings that will affect their spending and finances in taking care of their family. And that's pretty much what my plan in essence does, but it does it on a larger scale. And just by shifting the banker, so to speak, have the Federal Reserve as our banker instead of foreign countries and Wall Street, we will save hundreds of billions of dollars a year. In fact, I project under my plan we will save about 20 or more trillion dollars in interest payments over the next 20 years. And one of the benefits of my plan, it will get rid of the entire national debt, and it will save us 20 or more trillion dollars in interest payments. Imagine if we can then take all that money and fund social programs such as Medicare and Medicaid and education and healthcare, and build up our infrastructure and invest in research and reducing unemployment and lowering interest rates. All of those things are going to happen under this plan because we're not going to be drowning or stifling under the weight of an enormous debt burden. Now, the reason I take this approach is because for the last 40 or 50 years, the politicians have been trying to tell us that we can solve the debt problem through spending cuts and tax increases. Many times they've tried this, and many times they've failed. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Spending cuts and tax increases cannot and will not solve the debt problem of the United States. And even people who might criticize my plan, I promise them one thing. In the end, the country will end up adopting the very thing I propose because everything else has failed. And especially spending cuts and tax increases, that idea has failed every single time in the last 50 years. So, in fact, the Federal Reserve has implemented my plan on a small scale, the Hassan plan, when it implemented its QE2 and QE1 program by buying up hundreds of billions of dollars in national debt. And the Federal Reserve Chairman himself said that this purchase of government debt created up to 3 million jobs and saved the government lots of money in interest payments. So I think my plan is the way of the future. It's the only workable plan, and I think in the end the country will embrace it.
You mentioned earlier that you were born in Guyana. As a naturalized citizen, is the natural born provision in the Constitution a problem for you?
Well, I hope not. The natural born provision says that only a natural born citizen can be president. And as I told you earlier, I was born in Guyana and I'm a naturalized citizen. But we have a plan for this as well. We have started a lawsuit in the courts and it's working its way through the court system. And we're arguing that the equal protection guarantee of the Fifth Amendment, as well as the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment, trump the invidious national origin discrimination in the natural born clause. And we believe that's an argument that the court will find persuasive. And it's a complicated issue which I hope to address at a different time in more detail and more depth. But in essence, that's what we're arguing in the federal courts. And I am very optimistic that we will prevail when the dust settles on that.
Are you satisfied with the campaign thus far?
I'm more than satisfied. I mean, we started this campaign, and now the message of this campaign has gone far and wide. The coverage in the media has been more than I could have anticipated. We've gotten favorable rulings from the Federal Election Commission. We've reached out to the several states in terms of ballot access. We've gotten some responses which are encouraging. We'll continue to work on that front. And the most encouraging thing, however, is that I find that once people take the time to understand my economic plan and understand my legal arguments on the natural born clause, the response from them becomes very favorable and very positive. And I'm very encouraged by that. And that's what I think has kept the campaign going and spreading farther and wider as time goes on.
Finally, you don't have any experience as a politician in Washington, D.C. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, if you ask me, I think it's a darn good thing because I've never been a politician in Washington, I don't have any experience in running up $15 trillion in debt. What I do have is a lot of experience helping a lot of Americans solving their debt problems, solving the serious problems which they face. And I want to help America using the experience I've acquired so far in solving its problems, its debt problems, its problems with healthcare, education, social programs, and so on. So I think I have a lot to offer, and I would ask the American people to help me help our country.
All right, Mr. Hassan, thanks for answering the questions and good luck in your campaign for the presidency of the United States.
Thank you.